Looks like we're ready. I'd like to call the September 9th, 2024 City Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the council meeting this evening. We do not have any announcements or proclamations this evening, but we do have two presentations. We have the Fishers Fire Merit Board to recognize Dave Cohen and Chief Arusa.
Thank you for having us this evening. Dave, come on up. Tonight we have the privilege to honor and praise Dave Cohen. Dave has faithfully served on our merit board, so on behalf of the City of Fishers and the Department of Fire and Emergency Services, please accept our sincere congratulations and appreciation for 19 years of service.
Thank you.
In 2010, I came here as a young deputy chief. You helped me learn the ropes of the merit board. I appreciate your kindness. So we'd like to give you this small token of our appreciation for 19 years.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Well done. Well done.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. We have another Employee Service Award presented by the Fishers Fire Department, Chief Arusa. And we have Mr. Brandon Chevrolet, 25 years of service.
Tonight it is a great honor and privilege to praise firefighter Brandon Chevrolet for 25 years of dedicated service to the City of Fishers Fire and Emergency Services. Firefighter Brandon Chevrolet, or Chevy as we affectionately call him, started his fire service career in 1996 as a volunteer for the Wabash Wayne Township Fire Department in West Lafayette, Indiana. The following year, in 1997, he became a volunteer firefighter for Wayne Township in Indianapolis. In 1999, he graduated from Ivy Technical School with a degree in fire science, and that same year became a firefighter EMT for the City of Fishers. Brandon was a member of the United States Coast Guard Reserves from 2001 to 2003, a member of the United States Navy Reserves from 2003 to 2009, and in 2007 served in Iraq. Thank you for your service. Chevy married his wife Pamela in 2002 and has a daughter Ava and son Eli. In his own words, his greatest achievement in life is marriage and his children. His greatest reward in the fire service is seeing smiles on children's faces. Please join me in celebrating Brandon Chevrolet. Congratulations, Chevy.
Thank you for your service. Congratulations. We're moving on to item number 5, Council Committee Reports. John Weingart will present the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Cecilia. The Budget Finance Committee had a number of meetings with respect to a number of items on the agenda tonight. We recommended for approval last week item 7B, and we also recommended for first reading tonight item 8, 9, 10, 11 with respect to the budget, salary ordinance, some GO bonds, and the surplus bond proceeds.
Great. Thank you, John. Moving on to item 6, department reports. The Health Department report is listed on the agenda for anyone wanting to read that. We'll move on to item 7, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by John Weingart. Is there a second? Second by Selena Stoller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We're moving on to the regular agenda under business and financial. Item 8, 090924. It's a request to approve the 2025 municipal budget, first reading and public hearing.
Well, that's not me.
Always.
There we go. Well, City Council, Council President Coble, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I have now spent 18 years with the City of Fishers, and I believe I've worked on or been involved in every municipal budget since 2006 and on. So it's been honestly an honor and a privilege to be a part of what I think is a very important part of the municipal process, which is identifying priorities, marshaling collective resources, and trying to affect positive outcomes for our community. And the budget each year is just that. It's that process that we go through. And none of this would be possible, frankly, without the work and leadership of our Deputy Mayor, Elliot Holcrin, who has ran point this year on this budget process, and the team supporting him with Lisa Bradford in the Controller's office, and really the department heads who make this process, frankly, we're very fortunate, so that when Elliot and I tell them this is the financial landscape we find ourselves in, or these are the challenges we have, or the opportunities we want to seek, the department heads are always right there to work alongside us to try to identify the best possible budget to present to all of you. As we get into this, I just want to say too that, let's see here. Now I might need Tracy. Gainer. You should have a zip line down from the rafters. No, it's not in the budget. Apropos, there you go.
Oh, yeah, look at you. What did we do? It's also clear to me now.
User error.
We'll blame Ross. That's fine.
There we go. Thank you, Tracy. I want to take a moment and thank the city council members who have been involved to date. This has been a pretty extensive budget review process. I know we had a meeting the other day that went over 3 hours, where council members had the opportunity to ask more direct and specific questions to our department heads, and really valued the opportunity to have that dialogue back and forth so we could kind of clear up any misunderstandings that might be there, and make sure that we're all on the same page as we present this budget. So it's always been a team approach between the city council and my administration, and I'm grateful for that year in and year out. And John, thank you for your leadership on the finance committee and all those members of the finance committee. So as you can see tonight, we're at our first reading and public hearing of the budget, but obviously this budget has been socialized a number of times with all of you prior in finance committee meetings. Before we get into 2025, looking forward, we do want to take a moment and talk a little bit about 2024. We believe that 2024 was an exciting year for a lot of reasons, primarily what we were able to accomplish to affect positive outcome here in our community. The Neighborhood Matching Grant has always been a popular program, but this year you allotted us $750,000, which is the first time we've ever had that amount of money to put towards that program. And we were able to increase the caps and look at an 80-20 split. And we weren't sure how many neighborhoods would be interested in that program. And we thought we'd be working throughout all of 2024 to allot that money. After 2 calls for projects, we've spent all $750,000. Why is that important? This is an example of neighborhoods. For every dollar that we're putting in there, that means there's a neighborhood stepping forward and saying, we want to invest in ourselves. And I've had the opportunity, I think some of you might have been there, where we cut the ribbon on a new playground. I think, John, you were there. And it's exciting to see neighborhoods come together, pool their resources together, come alongside the city, and create vibrancy in those neighborhoods. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Neighborhood Matching Grant here in a moment. $1 million in sidewalks. Over 10 neighborhoods now have completely new sidewalks wherever there were panels that were no longer functioning correctly. Obviously, the landscaping, I've heard more positive comments about our medians being re-landscaped, and we're still working through that, and we should be done by the end of the year. More trees into our community, and then the Teacher Innovation Grant was actually a really fun process. Jordan Alexander headed up for us, and putting money into the classroom, backing our teachers when they want to truly innovate was really a great opportunity. There's still significant resources available there, and we look forward to partnering with our schools further. Geist Greenway opened, community center groundbreaking, As you all may be aware, the event center will open up here in less than 100 days, actually more like 85 days. And so it's crunch time, but we're so excited to see the lineup of events. Elliot was just sharing with me, we have 12 events scheduled in the first 17 days, which is really incredible. Everything from professional wrestling to ice skating and everything in between. So very, very exciting. And then finally, just when we talk about operations, this year we're bringing on 3 additional firefighters, 3 additional police officers, and then our 2 school resource officers. I do want to touch on that. This has been the first year where we've kind of rolled out an innovative program to recruit retired police officers into the ranks of our school resource officer program. And we weren't sure how that was going to go, but Chief Gephardt would tell you if he was standing here, I think it's gone really well. We were able to attract some really talented officers, and we think we can accelerate that program and get even more SROs into our buildings, which we view as a priority as we move forward in our community. And obviously, we had a reminder just this last week of the importance of having school resource officers in our schools as we saw the active shooter recently in Georgia.
Bless you.
Just to recap, even though we were able to invest in all those funds and do all of these things, we still maintain a very sound financial footing. We have the lowest municipal tax rate of the largest 4 communities here in Hamilton County. We have a AA plus bond rating, strong cash reserves of $33.9 million. And really it's almost a misnomer. Those are our cash reserves, but that's actually a large amount of that is surplus. Our cash reserve requirement is significantly less than that. We'll show that here in a moment, but that's above and beyond, and that's planning for the future and making sure that we have the resources to invest appropriately, which we'll also talk about here shortly. And from transparency, which is always something we strive for, this is our 35th straight achievement in financial reporting and our 17th Distinguished Budget Award. That's pretty extraordinary. That is the Government Finance Officers Association reviewing our documents and saying you are using best management principles when it comes to communicating and setting financial policies. And we've been doing that for 35 years on the CAFR that we create, and then 17 years straight on the budget, which I'm proud to say I was the intern that did the first year of that, I believe. In our 2025 budget highlights, we're looking at the 4th straight year of a flat or reduced tax rate. Our tax rate, our municipal tax rate now is literally 5 years ago, you would find the same tax rate. We've been able to whittle our tax rate down to a point where we were literally in 2019, which is pretty extraordinary if you think about it. We're going to continue to invest in our neighborhoods and in our teacher innovation grant. We're going to make some significant investments in our quality of life and the establishment of our community center. And obviously, we're going to build a lot of road projects, which we'll talk about here shortly, which is a mixed blessing, right? One, we're getting a lot of road projects done, but next year will be a big year for road work. Quick budget overview. Operating capital is $145,194,000. Debt service is $39.5 million, and our cash reserves, all funds combined, this isn't just our general fund, but all funds, approximately $62.9 million. Those cash reserves, for the first time in my 18 years, have actually started to generate real revenue because of the interest rate environment we're in. And so we've taken steps through the Finance Committee to invest that money and maximize the revenue coming back. So our one of our revenue streams, interest earned, has gone 4 or 5-fold what it used to be, which is great, where our money's actually working for the community. Property tax revenue. This is partly a component of the assessments. So if you think about it, as assessed values have grown, as we've lowered or maintained our tax rate, property tax revenue has continued to climb. And so you see here the 2 primary revenue streams we have, tax revenue being property tax and income tax. You can see a steady growth in our property tax revenue. And here, as I was mentioning earlier, as we talk about tax rates, in 2020, our municipal tax rate was 71.2 cents. In 2025, you're at 70.7 cents. So literally, a half a decade later, you have a lower tax rate than you did in 2020. And we've made a conscious effort to continue to try to drive that down or hold steady for our residents. In a comparison of municipal tax rate, I think this is pretty telling. If you look at our municipal tax rate in comparison to Carmel, Noblesville, or Westfield, we continue to maintain the lowest municipal tax rate of any of our counterparts here in Hamilton County. Income tax, which is always a hot topic. You can see here that we've seen growth in income tax revenue. To put things in perspective though, however, if you look at the other cities and towns, what they'll receive, Noblesville is probably 50,000 people less than what Fishers is today, maybe 40,000 less. And they're receiving roughly the same amount of income tax than we are. And Carmel's receiving significantly more than we are. And so this is a continued issue that we got to try to work on and address. But I'm grateful for the work of Senator Walker and others that we're talking to try to identify solutions to this problem moving forward. Budget overview. This is pretty consistent every year in our organization. The most valuable resource that we have in our organization is also the most expensive. Our people are the ones that get it done day in and day out in this organization, and they do come with a significant financial burden. Roughly $65 million of that overall budget and total operating expenses are people. I'm excited to say that we've found innovative ways to reduce the costs associated with our employees, like our healthcare plan. We're now this year going to experience yet another 2% or 2.5% decline in our premium costs. I don't know too many other organizations that can say that they've reduced healthcare costs for the last 2 to 3 years, and that's the situation we find ourselves in, and that is in no small part to our innovative approach to healthcare with community health, but also our employees' willingness to go along with that to try to accomplish a better outcome for everyone. Our operational investments for this upcoming year: in our fire department, we're going to take possession of a new ladder truck. That is no small feat in today's procurement environment. A new ladder truck, if ordered today, would be probably 2 to 2.5 years before we could receive it. And the cost of all of our fleet, whether you're talking about a police car, I talked about this last year, it remains the same. Police cars, fire trucks, ambulances are literally 30, 40, 50, sometimes 80% more expensive than they were 4 or 5 years ago. And frankly, I just don't see that number going down anytime soon. So our fleet costs are real, and we're trying to tackle that to the best of our ability, but it is certainly a challenge. And we're going to focus on, again, increasing the number of paramedics and ordering a new engine and a new ambulance. In the police department, we're going to try an innovative approach to what we call a community service officer. This is not a full-blown police officer or sworn officer as we would think of it, but rather someone who can tackle a number of or a large amount of workload that perhaps our sworn officers just don't have the bandwidth to tackle today. That could be anywhere from a parking issue in a neighborhood, which I know all of you get emails about, having someone run point on that, to VIN checks, to putting car seats in cars. All of those things are important, and we want to maintain that level of service, but we want to make sure that we have someone that's dedicated to those issues. So we're going to try this community service officer, which has been a model been used in several other communities. To my point earlier about the additional program on SROs, or the new program that we have, we're going to try to bring on 3 additional school resource officers. If you recall, the schools pay 50% of the salaries and benefits of these officers. So this is really, what you're really funding is like 1.5 FTEs, if you will. And we're hopeful that we can recruit and bring those folks on. Our health department, I'm really proud of the work that they've done. They've been able to put the infrastructure in place to bill insurance, which will actually generate about $300,000 of additional revenue that otherwise we wouldn't receive. And so I'm really excited for them to do that. And that really comes in the form of, if we're doing vaccines, if we're doing other healthcare programs, we're able to bill that to insurance where otherwise we were not. And that will generate some serious revenue for the city of Fishers. Operational excellence, we're going to continue to work on our landscaping. We think it's a huge bang for our buck, and we're going to continue to try to drive that. We are firm believers in this organization, in our administration. You get what you tolerate. And so if we tolerate our streets not looking well, if we tolerate litter or unkept medians, then that's what you're going to get. Same with crime. You get what you tolerate. And so here in our community, we're going to have a high standard of excellence, And we're going to continue to strive for that. And I think we can achieve it year in and year out, and I know our team is up for the task. To that point about high level of service, we've talked about this, and you're going to see it tonight. Our trash contract, we believe we're going to be able to save a lot of residents a lot of money by moving to this trash contract. One of our commitments to everyone is that we're going to have someone at the City of Fishers or multiple people that can pick up the phone and deal with your issue, your customer service concern or your billing issue. And that $2 admin fee will pay for not only the software that we need to be able to do this effectively, but then also to make sure that there are people here that can manage it. And we're picking up 32,000 households, so that's a heavy lift for our administration, but we feel confident we can do it. It's going to be another busy year in Parks and Recreation. We're talking about adding another agri-park manager because we're looking actually to explore expanding our agri-park to the west side of Fishers. And we're going to talk more about that in the coming weeks and months as we try to solidify a location. We are going to finally get our restrooms done at the agri-park, and I know for every second grade class that goes there, they will be grateful for that. And we're going to be hiring 13 full-time community center positions. So as we build that beautiful building on 116th and Hoosier, we got to staff it. And Jake has done a wonderful job putting together a pro forma that allows us to ramp up and get ready and hit the ground running in the fourth quarter of this upcoming year. One final item, and all of these agenda items, or a couple of these rates that I'm going to talk to you about tonight, these are on your agenda later on where Lindsay will be talking about the ordinance associated with it. Councilmember Dreamer often talks about this. You know, the sewer utility is a business. It is an enterprise asset, and you need to have the revenue associated with it to meet its needs. You do not want to find yourself in a situation 20 or 30 years from now where you didn't invest in it appropriately, and now you have a broken down system and your rates are out of line. And we've done our best to maintain. We've literally only raised the rate 2 times in 27 years. But we do need to look at a rate increase for our sewer utility. We did a rate study, and it came back and advocated for an $8 a month increase. We looked at that closely, and we believe that a $3 is more appropriate. We feel that we can meet the needs and our obligations both on the capital and operational front. And so tonight I'm recommending that we increase our sewer utility bill $3 a month moving forward. The same holds true for our ambulance service. 80% of our calls in the fire and EMS department are ambulance calls. And just think of the cost that has gone up since the last time we evaluated this. The average ambulance has gone up about 80% in cost. The labor has gone up significantly. Pharmaceuticals have gone up significantly. So we have to try to keep pace with that so that we make sure that we're not putting the tax burden on residents that aren't utilizing the service. If people are utilizing the service, the more accurately we can charge those individuals that are consuming it, the better off we will be. So tonight, Lindsay will be talking about this as well, and Chief Arusa will be available for questions. But I fully support making this adjustment so that we're in line and more reflective of the true cost of this service. Just in closing, I would share again, here's our cash reserves. We planned appropriately. We required $16.6 million. We have $33.3 million. And part of the reason we did that is in anticipation of items like the community center, where here we're going to have to generate or use about $2.3 million of startup capital, for lack of a better term, so that we can ensure that we have the staff needed so when we open the door, pre-revenue, that we're able to be successful. So with that deduction or reduction, you see that we're looking at a cash reserve of $31.088 million and a requirement of $16.7 million. So if you were to approve this budget as it stands tonight, it is still very much in alignment and exceeds any expectation of our financial policies. Finally, one of the things that I'm recommending to the council is to do our nonprofit approach a little bit differently. Instead of going through a lengthy and kind of drawn out committee process where we set expectations or heighten expectations of different organizations, instead what I'm proposing to you tonight is we address this during the budget process. And so what I'm before you tonight, what I'm recommending is that we allocate that $250,000 in the following way. $75,000 would go to Conner Prairie, $90,000 would go to YMI and YAP, $35,000 would go to Cherish Center, and $50,000 would be available for the finishing out of the community center when it comes to either special needs programming or senior programming. And so this is my recommendation as it stands here tonight regarding the nonprofit dollars. Finally, I probably should have closed on more of a positive note, but we have a lot of road projects coming this upcoming year. It's going to be a big year. 116th and Allisonville, you can see here an image of what we anticipate that to look like. The Nickel Plate Trail Bridge over 96th Street, 136th Street widening, and then we have a large road resurfacing project. And then this doesn't even include some other roundabouts that we're anticipating doing, 96 and Cynthia Inn, and I believe 131st and Howe, is that right, Mackie? Yeah, so we have 2 other road projects that aren't even listed on here, and then projects that we plan to complete yet this year. 126 in Southeastern is done and it looks great. 96 in Allisonville, hope to wrap up by the end of the year, and then 141st in Prairie Baptist. So a lot of road work, a lot of improvements, but I think a lot of these will alleviate some of the choke points that we currently have in our city. I won't go through all of this again, but just to reiterate, these are some of the high points. I do want to say in closing, if we were to put a screenshot up of the number of employees we have per capita for the level of service we're providing, our employees year in and year out punch above their weight class. And we ask them to do more often with less than many of their counterparts. And so one of the things that Ellie and I really tried to do this year as we went into the budget process is how do we remain competitive? How do we maintain great employees? And that's why you see a 6% recommended with also a $1,000 additional increase to their 457 match. We believe that that allows us to remain competent and capable of doing all the great work that you see here at the city. And I want to thank you again for the mid-year adjustment that you did for our employees. It was really well received by our team, and on behalf of all the employees, just want to say how grateful we are for your guys' steadfast support in all that we do. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I know tonight we're going to have a public hearing, and then we'll answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Are there any questions by city council members on the budget?
Mayor, just as an experience as a mayor of the city, when it comes to utilities, and I've always said this, utilities are a for-profit company to provide service to ratepayers, not taxpayers. In a lot of cities, because they are afraid to raise the rates, that I've experienced when you were town manager, get in trouble. And then it's millions and millions of dollars or fines from the state because we're dumping sewage into White River. And then we're really looking into problems. So if the recommendation was 8, I think we need to stay where we need to be to protect 105,000 citizens in Fishers and not start playing this political game, well, I don't want to raise rates. It's a utility to protect the people that we represent. And if your study says 8,
Well,
I personally...
I appreciate that support, Councilmember Dreamer. I would tell you, I challenged some of the assumptions in the report, and I feel confident at 3.
You said, okay.
I feel confident at $3. I wouldn't be standing here recommending that if I didn't think that that would last us. Now, what I would appreciate all of your support on is that we don't wait 27 years to have the conversation again. I think we need to really, and I think Finance Committee talked about maybe setting a schedule.
Scott, just a number of council members, Selena came forward, and other council members talked about us getting together on a more periodic basis and talking about all these different rates and making sure we're addressing needs rather than waiting until we're having to really get aggressive on raise rates. So we hear you loud and clear. And,
Okay.
The members of the Finance Committee are certainly cognizant and going to be working with that going forward.
If the mayor's comfortable with 3, then I'll go.
I think that revisiting is a great recommendation. Oh, sorry.
I have a few questions here. On the community service officer, number one, I'm just going to say thank you. I mean, as you know, we've had lots of problems with parking, and I'm sure Chief Gephardt and his team would greatly appreciate the reduced phone calls from some people. So want to say thank you for that. But I have a question on the SROs. Number one, how many schools have SROs, and do all schools need an SRO?
Our ultimate goal is to have a person in every building. We're not there today. We have a ways to go. There are probably at least, I want to say, and Chief would correct me, but there are 9 or 10 buildings that still do not have an SRO. And so we've got a ways to go. Even with these 3 additional this year, it won't get you to a person in every building. Now, that being said, our commitment is to put the right person in every building. And so we're not just going to go out and grab anybody that can fog a mirror and put them in with our most precious asset, our kids. You have to find the right person with the right temperament. And so we're going to get there, but we're going to get there the right way. And I think this new program yields a lot of optimism because we are having great candidates step forward. And if we can get more sooner, we may come back to you. I want to reserve the right to come back to you mid-year and say, hey, we've got, instead of 3 candidates, we have 5 candidates that are really great, and we would like to accelerate it. But right now, we think 3 is a good goal to try to accomplish.
Any other questions by Bill Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to emphasize what I brought up during Finance Committee, and I appreciate the road projects that we're working on, that we're getting through. Yeah. It's a continuing battle, but I don't want to lose sight, and I don't think you have lost sight of the need to resurface neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of neighborhoods that are 30, 40 years old that are in desperate need of resurfacing, so I would just urge you and your staff to continue to look for extra monies to increase the resurfacing budget as quickly as you can.
I appreciate that. We are, Fishers is blessed, but we're also fighting a war on 2 fronts. We're busy trying to build increased capacity while also trying to maintain those push-pull against each other. But MECI does a wonderful job of pursuing community crossing grant dollars, which we almost always go for resurfacing for ours, and we'll continue to do that moving forward.
One question I have quickly on the nonprofit,
Yeah.
And it's splitting hairs probably right now. So I'm going to vote, I'll approve this, but I think Conner Prairie, if I had my druthers, it would be more of a tourism bucket.
Yeah.
And increase maybe something like Cherish. I just feel like, there's one organization that does a tremendous job. And when I say these things, this is not a knock on Conner Prairie. It is
Sure.
A not-for-profit, I feel like, is where the monies need to go to help people that are in need. And I think one of those things, especially when we're talking about, our SROs continue to improve and sustain the resources and assets that our law enforcement has, to back that up in an organization like Cherish. So
Certainly understand and respect that point of view. And like I said, I'm proposing something to all of you. If there's adjustments that want to be made, I'm open-minded. I'm just trying to eliminate some committee work.
Part of my understanding is some of the dollars that go towards helping Conner Prairie also helps with their Access Pass program, which provides opportunities for people, the underserved, to come at a discounted rate to experience the museum. And so,
Cecilia, do they also train some of those with special needs? I know they hire
they're
some.
hiring. I mean, they're trying to hide all abilities and trying
Yeah.
to find opportunities for all abilities there.
I think one thing to note is this year, if we were to fund Cherish at $35,000, that's a significant improvement from where we've been in years past. In recognition of the work that they do on behalf of the police department. I think Councilmember Zimmerman, you're exactly right. We view their work as more of an extension of our law enforcement work than we do kind of just your traditional, hey, I'm a nonprofit and here's what, I mean, they do a critical component of what we do in our police department.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we're going to open up the public hearing for discussion on the 2025 proposed budget. Anyone wishing to speak regarding the budget, make a comment, or ask a question, please come up, and you have 3 minutes to speak. State your name and address for the record. Looks like we might have a few people coming.
Cecilia, some of the items on the budget are also addressed as later items in the agenda. For example, the sewer, the trash, and these things have, is it best to put that with those or with this?
We only have like 2 people, so I think it's
Okay.
okay. It looks like, anyway,
No,
but go
that's
ahead.
fine.
Hi, I'm Ross Reinhardt, 7704 Creekside Court, and thank you, Mayor, for the budget presentation. I'm particularly excited about the fact that it's going to be funding the bridge over 96th Street off for the trail. I know for us, for our family, that's going to open up a lot of mobility options south of 96th Street that we just don't have right now by bicycle, which I'm particularly excited about. One thing, you know, obviously we were dealt a rough hand by the income tax distribution from Hamilton County, but I think, you know, we can be scrappy as a city and focus on making the most of our areas, our valuable productive areas, make sure that land, the valuable land doesn't go to waste. And if you look at an aerial view of any of our areas like the Nickel Plate, you'll see a lot of it eaten up by parking. And a lot of times when people want to do something, you hear the restrictions of, oh, what about traffic and what about parking? So one thing that I feel is missing from this budget is with the focus on widening roads, we're doubling down on that, but not creating options. I'd rather than wider roads, I would rather us spend some money towards developing options to needing to have more cars, have more parking. Because, you know, you see this pattern often in cities where you just keep widening the roads and then more traffic fills it in, and you're never done off of this cycle of widening roads and building parking. And it eats into that valuable land that it could otherwise be enjoyed and bring prosperity to the residents. So I wanted to highlight that as something that I wish was in this budget. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Looks like we do.
Mayor, council members, I'm Robert Evans, 10707 Burning Ridge Lane, currently the president of the Quaker Ridge Homeowners Association. One of the things that in the budget that was a little disappointing to see was the reduction in the money for the Vibrant Neighborhood Matching Grant from $750,000 this year to $400,000 next year. Unfortunately, my neighborhood was not able to put together a project to submit this year, but you spent that money in less than a year, the $750,000, and obviously it's done tremendous things for the neighborhoods or you wouldn't have granted the money. So I'd like you to think about maybe upping that back to where it was. And the next item I had was I want to thank very much Mayor Fadness, Councilman Weingard, and engineers Meckie and Bassett for the repaving of Burning Ridge Lane and the west side of Quaker Ridge Court. It is wonderful, but there's always a but, right? The concrete roads in my neighborhood are a disaster. So I'll probably be back later with pictures. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak concerning the budget? Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Do I have a first reading? John Weigert called first reading, so we are moving on. Thank you. Moving on to item 9, 090924B. This is a request to approve the 2025 salary ordinance. This is also a first reading.
Good evening, Council. Ethan Lee, Director of Human Resources. I'm here to present first reading of the city's proposed 2025 salary ordinance. Indiana code requires that the city's legislative body, by ordinance, fix the annual compensation of each city position title. City has elected to use biweekly salary schedule to establish the maximum allowed salary for each position under the ordinance. It should be noted that any of the proposed additions or changes to our existing 2024 salary ordinance are included under the proposed 2024 budget and otherwise have no financial impact. In addition to the proposed 6% employee wage increase, these additions or changes are intended to update job titles and salary grades to better align with current roles and remain competitive with market and industry standards. The proposed addition changes are as follows. Under Human Resources, change the title of HR Coordinator to HR Manager. In City Court, increase the maximum biweekly wage for the part-time bailiff. In the Health Department, add new position title of medical assistant. Community Center, add new position titles of manager, assistant manager, facilities manager, and fitness coach. Also move aquatics manager to a higher salary grade. Police Department, add the new position title of community services officer. Public Relations, move the marketing and PR manager to a higher salary grade. And last but not least, all city received a 6% increase to the maximum biweekly salary amounts for all the position titles, including elected officials. Any changes to the 2025 budget that would have an effect on the salary ordinance, we would bring forth a revised version of that at the October council meeting. Happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Ethan. Do we have any questions by council regarding the salary ordinance? Okay. Do I have a first reading? First reading by John Weingart. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 10-090924A. This is a request to approve the 2024 general obligation bond. And that's the first reading.
For the record, Lisa Bradford, City Controller. The item before you is a request to approve the 2024 general obligation bond. As you saw in the budget presentation, the debt service amount includes this contemplated one-year general obligation bond. This bond is used predominantly to finance our fleet. About $3 million goes to the vehicles, equipment to maintain the city's fleet, and then the rest of that money that will be used from the general obligation bond goes to road and trail projects. As you saw from the list for 2025, that is contemplated as part of MECI's budget and the engineering budget. So this is our standard bond that we do each year, and it is just a one-year debt, and so it is paid off, obviously, in 1 year. It'll be paid off in 2025. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Do I have any questions on the general obligation bond? Okay, first reading by John Weingart. Thank you. Moving on to item 11, R090924A. This is a resolution approving the use of surplus bond proceeds and addressing matters related thereto.
Thank you. For the record, Lisa Bradford, City Controller. The item before you relates to our bond, which we used to purchase Hamilton Southeastern Utilities. At the time, if you'll recall, in that acquisition bond, we had sized that for the actual purchase of the utility along with potential sewer projects. At the time we sold the acquisition bond, we were able to get a very good interest rate in the environment and got an extremely good amount of bond proceeds. That enabled us to obviously complete the acquisition and do all the projects that we had listed as part of that acquisition document. And so this item before you allows us to take the remaining proceeds and apply this to a different project.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions for Lisa regarding the surplus bond? Okay, that's also up for first reading?
It's a resolution, so.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's see, it says resolution on here. It says first reading.
Can we
is the
approve
option.
Approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. There's a motion by John Weingart, second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 12. This is dealing with economic development. It's R090924B, resolution waiving noncompliance abatement filing for Thermo Fisher.
Thank you. For the
requires
record.
public hearing.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
For the record, Megan Baumgartner, Director of Community and Economic Development. In June of this year and every year, Council approves the compliance forms for companies who have received an abatement approval through our City Council. This year, Thermo Fisher, which is one of the world's largest life science companies, they provided their compliance form to the City of Fishers, which Council approved on June 17th. They're beyond their compliance, or they're well in compliance and projecting to hit all of their requirements. Due to some internal changes, they weren't able to submit that form on their side. And so tonight we're requesting, and Marion Kirby is also here, and I'll bring her up in a moment to speak on behalf of that delay. But we're requesting a waiver of the non-compliance resolution, so then they are able to submit that form back to the county to receive the full benefit of the abatement. So, and there will be a public hearing, so a public notice was provided to all the overlapping taxing entities. But I'll bring up Mary Ann, if that's all right with Council President, to share a little bit more about what led to that and any comments that she might have.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you to the mayor and the city council for allowing us to address you with this issue. So as Megan had mentioned, Thermo Fisher is extremely large. If you know anything about the life science industry, we're essentially kind of like the Walmart of life sciences, and how we really have been built upon mergers and acquisitions of companies. And because of that, being built upon mergers and acquisitions, we have multiple divisions, and these divisions act as their own entity, but we're under the Thermo Fisher umbrella. And that Thermo Fisher umbrella provides corporate support under certain circumstances. This is a situation where we were new into Indiana, building a facility that I was actually in charge of building. And I am in no way or means a tax individual, so I really needed to rely upon our corporate individuals who reside in Waltham, Massachusetts, and also in West Hills, California, to assist with any of the additional documentation that we would need for this agreement that we had in place with the city. I did receive an email on July 1st from Marilyn Schneckler from the county in regards to some paperwork that we had not turned in regards to our personal property abatement. I did pass that information over to my corporate contacts, only to find out that the controller, our financial controller, who would have helped us with this, had left the company. And so this individual, I didn't learn, had left the company until the 5th of July after sending over that email. Our new controller did not come on board until July 31st, and due to being a close of our quarter, was not able to get all the paperwork submitted until August. So all the paperwork has been submitted, and our company, having the new controller on board, working with our finance of our corporate, Divisions Corporate, which is in West Hills, California, we're very much aware now, not only at the corporate level, but also the Fisher's Lab level in regards to this paperwork that has to be turned in. So we're asking for you to oversee or overturn so that we can process our abatement, our personal property abatement for this year. And knowing that we have secured individuals and also an educational level at the lab and those people operating the lab, so that we can not make sure this doesn't happen again.
So I think, to put a fine point on this, unlike other times where we've had corporations come before you who didn't meet their investment or their employment numbers and are asking for some sort of forgiveness, that is not the situation here. These folks have met or exceeded their investment and job numbers, and we're glad to have a company like Thermo located here in Fishers. They simply just missed the deadline for filing a document.
So it's just paperwork.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's the damn accountants.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say that, you did. But just to give you some perspective, from the time that we filled out our CF1 form and submitted that to Jordan Wiley, we had, I think we had a total of 7 individuals at the office. We've since hired more individuals. We're now at 12. We've just gotten a new approved head count for adding 3 more individuals, which we will be hiring on. So part of our agreement with the city was to have 25 individuals by the year of 2026, and we are well on our way to meeting that. Our business has grown significantly to where we're really running at the lab in order to keep up with the clientele that is looking to do business here with us.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming before the council to provide some clarity on what happened, and thank you very much. Are there any other questions from?
I just want to say thank you for being a great community partner, meeting the requirements of this. Like the mayor stated, a lot of times this isn't the situation. Mm-hmm. I get it, where there's, issues with employees, especially in today's world with personnel and stuff. And I just want to say thanks for being a great community partner and growing with us. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
It's been very good for us. The city has worked with us very well. In fact, the city has worked with us so well that it has really raised the attention of some of our other corporate individuals in West Hills. We're looking to expand on manufacturing capabilities, and Indiana is one of the areas in where we're looking to potentially do that.
I can refer you over to Megan.
Yeah,
She
we'll be
can
in
help
touch.
you find locations and
Thank you so much. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak regarding the non-compliance, the waiving of the non-compliance abatement filing, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve the waiver by Todd Zimmerman, second by Selena Stoller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 13, R090924E. This is a request to approve a resolution for an amendment to the City View project agreement.
Yes, so my second item tonight is for an amendment to the City View project, which is at 116th and Lantern Road. They've demoed all of those buildings. Closing is still anticipated, just trying to get those accountants, John, and attorneys, Chris, to move, not Chris, he isn't involved in that one, but to be able to align on closing. One additional item, so it's extended out to November 30th of this year. One additional change is that previously we had some stormwater quality and improvements that we were committed to executing the work on. Now, instead of us doing that work and performing it ourselves, we're requesting approval for reimbursement from City Council with that, so that we're just paying and reimbursing City View for that work instead of self-performing. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any questions on this project for Megan? Okay, motion to approve by John Weingart. Is there a second? Second. Second by Tiffany Duplitson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to government and miscellaneous on our agenda. Item 14-090924D. This is a request to approve an ordinance amending the Chapter 51 rates and charges for the use of services rendered by the City of Fishers for the sanitary sewage works, and amending Chapter 50 garbage, trash, and refuge, establishing the service rates and charges for trash and solid waste and recycling collection and disposal, and this is up for first reading.
Sorry about that title. I'll try to be a little bit more brief in my next one. Good evening, Council. Lindsay Bennett, Corporation Counsel. I'm here tonight on sewer rates and trash rates. I first want to acknowledge Lisa Bradford and her team and their work on the sewer rate study, and also Jordan Alexander for all of her work on the trash contract. This was really her baby, but I'm just covering for her tonight. And also want to thank Jeremy Schmidt with engineering, who helped walk me through some of the sewer rates. So I'm just going to touch briefly on sewer rates because Mayor Fadness already covered most of this in his presentation. But as you are probably aware, we have two service areas for our wastewater utility. We have the Fishers Legacy Service Area, which is the area in red over to the left. Proposed rate will be $34 per EDU. That's a $3 increase over the current rate of $31 per EDU. We also have Hamilton Southeastern Utility Service Area. Proposed rate for HSEU is $42.79. That's a $3 increase over their current rate that was carried over in the acquisition of $39.79 per EDU. You saw this in the mayor's presentation, just another comparison just to show, our sewer rates are still the lowest of our neighbors. Our proposed legacy would still be the lowest. HSD is still near the lowest. These were all done pursuant to a sewer rate study that Lisa and her team went through to assess the cost of keeping the wastewater utility in sound financial condition as required by Indiana code. And as the mayor mentioned, the city felt that the $3 increase would be appropriate and would be enough to support the wastewater utility in the face of increasing operational costs and inflation. I'm going to move on to trash rates. We will be establishing trash rates with this ordinance. And just to take you back to where this all kind of began, earlier this year, we sent out a trash survey. We had 2,532 individual submissions and 120 HOA submissions. And I just want to point your attention to the type of waste that was being provided, or waste collection. 50% in both categories were getting trash only. Around 35 to 37% were receiving recycling and trash, and just a few were getting leaf pickup. And I also want to direct your attention to the monthly rate to point out that 70% of the individuals that answered were paying over $21 a month, and 62% of the HOAs were paying over $21 a month. So what are some of the benefits of the citywide trash contract? We thought we could leverage economies of scale to secure services that are not offered to all of the residents. So that means, we wanted everybody to be receiving trash pickup, recycling, and leaf pickup. This would improve roadway wear in neighborhoods and city streets, would enable the city to assist residents with trash concerns or issues, and we thought we'd be able to lock in predictable rates that are consistent across the city. As you could see, the rates varied wildly over the residents within the city. So we issued an RFP, and we had 3 offers that responded to the RFP with a 5, 6, and 7-year proposal. City staff interviewed each offer and then requested a 10-year proposal from each. They submitted those. Those were reviewed and evaluated, and the Board of Public Works awarded a contract to Republic Services of Indiana at its last board meeting. So this is what are the basic terms with Republic Service. We'll get weekly collection of solid waste and yard waste, bi-weekly curbside recycling. There will be 3 containers that will be provided. 2 will be for solid waste and yard waste, and 1 for recycling. There are additional containers that can be rented by the residents directly from Republic. We'll receive leaf and landscaping waste pickup in April and November. Each household will be allowed 20 extra bags or bundles per week. That is consistent with what our neighbors are getting. Large item pickup will be available. The residents can call Republic directly for those large items. An additional fee may apply. We'll have special needs services for residents who are physically unable to walk their bins to the curb, and of course holiday pickup, where pickup will be delayed 1 day if the pickup falls on a holiday. So these are the rates that we're going to be looking at tonight. That's a 10-year rate lock-in. And again, this is for residential units only. So we're looking at single-family homes, duplexes, quadplexes, and townhomes. These rates are set to start in January of 2025. And again, they are locked in for 10 years. They will not be subject to any fuel surcharges, inflation costs. All of those costs were built into these rates. These rates also include a city administrative fee for the costs to the city for providing services. Those costs would be additional city staff, software and technology, legal costs, the cost of collection, preparation of bills, and postage. This is how we compare to our surrounding neighbors. As you can see, we fall kind of somewhere in the middle, but I think it's important to note that we are a new contract. All of these lower rates are active or renewals or extensions. So they already have everything in place. They already have all of the trucks that will be providing services. They have all the bins. They have all the staff. Whereas for us, Republic will need to ramp up their staffing, their bins, and their trucks. So as for the new contracts, we're one of the lowest. So a lot of the questions I get are, how do we get out of this if we're not happy? Well, if Republic fails to perform or comply with its obligations under the contract, if we believe that they're not capable of completing the services, if they become insolvent, if they file bankruptcy, those are all default by Republic, and we would have the right to terminate. And after 84 months, we can terminate for any reason. So what does this mean for residents? So billing will now be handled by the City of Fishers, and each resident will receive 1 bill for trash and sewer. There will be no opt-out for residential units, so everybody will be receiving the service. All the residential units will be. We do have a possibility for suspension of services for snowbirds. That will be for trash only. They will not be able to suspend sanitary or stormwater charges. Our next steps, Republic will be identifying routes this fall, and the distribution of bins will begin around the week of December 23rd. We have received a lot of questions from HOAs. What if the HOA currently bills its residents for trash, sewer, and stormwater? So we are currently transitioning to direct billing of all residents, and so HOAs will not be permitted to pay on behalf of the residents. And so each property owner will start receiving 1 bill from the city. HOA clubhouses can receive services from Republic if they have a 96-gallon bin, and we do get a lot of questions about what happens with existing contracts. I wanted to note that in the RFP, we did put provisions that if a company bid on this contract, that they would be agreeable to forfeiting their existing contracts for these services within the city of Fishers. We also recently passed an amendment to the ordinances so that it would prohibit providers from charging fees for cancellation of services or container pickup. And we also, in that ordinance, included some regulations to support a single trash provider. If any residents have complaints or questions with the services being provided, they can contact the city, and the city will notify Republic. Republic should be responding to complaints within 24 hours of receipt of the complaint, and anything like failure to pick up should be corrected the next day. We've had a lot of communications since the survey went out. As you can see, we've had meetings, we've had mailings, we've had newsletters. Next will be a Twilight Town Hall. That will be held in October, and we'll also be having a public hearing on this ordinance at the next City Council meeting. I am happy to answer any questions you have. We also have Craig Lutz with Republic here today if you have any questions that are specific to Republic services.
Thank you. I want to congratulate you and the staff, the city, for this is a big undertaking to just get through all this and really put in detail everything, so we really appreciate that. I'm excited for the leaf and landscape debris removal, which will be great that we don't have right now. Are there any comments or questions from council members?
I have a few questions here. One of my questions is, there's been a little bit of discussion about the $2 fee within the community, which I know that you're well aware of. Do we have any idea as to how much Republic would charge for that customer service? Because clearly they're not going to pick up, they're going to add that customer service fee on. They're going to have to deal with it with employees and things like this. What would Republic charge if we were having them do this? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, so Jordan did reach out to, I think, Republic and maybe some other companies, and $2 was pretty comparable to what they would charge if they were taking on those responsibilities in lieu of the city. So if they were providing, staffing to answer any questions, if they were preparing the bills, that is in line with what they would be charging.
There were two recent bids done in other municipalities, central Indiana, where they bid it as an alternate. If the trash company were to do the billing themselves, and it was a $2 difference.
So the trash company was charging $2
An
to
additional,
do the customer service.
and Craig's
So
saying his would
what-
be north of that, but
They also, excuse me, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
my name's Craig Lutz. They also included inflation costs year over year as well. So it was $2 to start, but then there was an additional increases every year. So if this is a $2 whole for the next 10 years.
so this is, it's a true market test that you have other communities bidding it out, and it's spot on what we're asking for to be able to conduct the same service.
Anybody else? Brad, I think you had.
Once again, this is a utility, for-profit utility company, not taxpayer. Can we, on January 1, on the first page of the Fishers website, put the phone number for people to call about
Yes.
trash?
We will, and there will be people that answer the phone. So. Thank you. I'll be asking for the discount because I'm leaving. The existing trash, the container we have now, is that the 96 gallons?
Yes.
Okay, so those of us that have it already, nothing changes really. Okay.
Right, yeah, your route might change, your pickup days may change, but the bins will stay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think, John,
I have just one question. Lisa, you may be able to answer this question better than me, is how many folks here in Fishers still get paper bills? As a percentage?
About 2/3.
2/3?
Can we opt out?
And how much does it cost to produce a paper bill?
Well, to mail a paper bill is anywhere from 60 cents to $1. And that does not include the other costs associated. That is just where
I certainly encourage residents to save a tree or two and pay online. Right? Thank you, Lisa. I just
Yeah, I just want to say and echo what Selena said. Great work. I know this is a tough subject. We knew going into this was a tough subject. I've had overwhelming response from HOA presidents and residents that they think this is the right direction, which actually surprised me at first before we even got to the numbers. Other than the 4 or 5 online that like to lob accusations without ever showing up to a council meeting, but we're used to that kind of stuff. So thank you very much for all the work you've done. I think it's great. All my questions have been answered, so I really appreciate it.
I do have another question or two here. So I'm going to relate this to software because that's what I'm used to. So I go out, I'm contracting with a software company I want to hook to their platform to provide ABC service, okay? So in order to do that, typically I'm having to pay for the development of an API. So I've had some people say, hey, with Carmel, why is theirs lower? Their contract has been in existence for many years. With ours, they have to buy trucks, hire employees, buy trash cans, all this stuff. So is that cost of what I want to call setup being spread out over these 10 years? And as a possibility, we might be able to eliminate that cost in the next run of a contract. Is that so?
Well, I can't speak to how Republic came up with their bid, but yes, essentially that is why there is a difference between like a Carmel or Noblesville and Fishers, because they are extending their services. This is brand new. Republic is investing in new trucks, and they're about $500,000 each, and additional staff, to your point. So
yeah, I can help. I'm Craig Lutz. I'm with Republic Services. Thank you all very much. Kind of like what Mayor Fadness talked about with the fire engines, ladder trucks. Those costs, the cost of a garbage truck, recycling truck 5 years ago to what it is now. I mean, we can talk about supply chain demands. We can talk about inflations that have gone skyrocketing. The cost of these trucks to run the routes every day have gone up tenfold. And the other piece that it is, just like we talked about at the budget meeting, we also want to ensure we have the best of the best, the right essential employees that are going to come in every day, lunch pail in hand, with service and paying a fair market wage for a fair market service. So in order to do that, we are competing with the top of the line CDL drivers, especially in a market that is the crossroads of Indiana. Not only the drivers, but the other ones that we are challenged with every day are the mechanics and the technicians to service on and wrench on a garbage truck. They have to work second shift. A garbage truck smells, and as opposed to a more off-the-road diesel truck. So to ensure that and ensure that the services are going to be performed, we want to make sure we're market plus. And those type of services all provide in the cost to serve every day. And what we're committed to is providing a safe, reliable, and environmentally responsible product every day to the citizens and the residents of Fishers. And we thank you all for the support.
Thank you. I know that we've had a couple of opportunities to talk. In this forum, can you talk just a little bit more about some of the opportunities, maybe with our school-age kids, and some of the recycling and some of the other opportunities? Having a 10-year contract, you're certainly going to be part of Fishers for a while. So.
No, and we're excited. I've been a little bit part of Fishers for some time now, and let me kind of back up and say I'm not as a sexy speech as the event center with coming with a professional wrestling event and then a skating event. So I excuse my pun there. But what we're excited and what our commitment is who we are. I just want to say who we are. Republic Services. We're a leader in the environmental services, waste and recycling industry in the United States and in Canada. And our commitment is to advance the circularity, reduce emissions and decarbonization. And we do that, and we partner that with our customers in providing a better sustainable world that we live in today and for our kiddos in the future. The exciting piece that is about this in the essential services is Lindsay brought this up a little bit on the PowerPoint, is the opportunity we have to affect the recycling and the circularity in this market right in here. We say 35%, give or take. I think that opportunity to spearhead and put citywide curbside recycling to this market in a growing market is going to help in helping advance that circularity. Get that cardboard, get that paper, get that aluminum cans, get those plastic bottles in the right container so it can be processed and sorted and separated, and then we can advance that through our new polymer center that we're also building and advancing here in Central Indiana as well. So those are some of the exciting things that we kind of do, and I kind of talk about the sexy piece of the of the waste industry is the recycling piece, and we can bring that and that education to the kiddos. We've done that in a couple of different town hall events and different platforms with the schools and things of that nature. So that's it's a big game changer here in this market that we kind of don't really, kind of gets watered down.
Brad?
You have trouble finding drivers?
Every day.
Every day.
Right now, knock on wood, we are staffed plus, but it's consistent. We have an open rec always. We always say we want to put proactive recs out there. If you want to, and we also do training. Mechanics and technicians, we've actually partnered with Lincoln Tech. So kids that, doesn't really want to go a four-year school, we'll bring them on. If they want to wrench, we'll actually give them a scholarship. We'll send them to Lincoln Tech to get certified and come back and work for Republic. So we've been doing that. We've been partnering. We send them down to Dallas, Texas for their training as well.
That's great. Wonderful. I have a question. Recently, there's companies now that come and they dedicate just cleaning the trash cans. Is that something that you would do maybe later down the line, or is that something that?
I think that's a great project and a great product offering that some of those guys have found a niche in. I think they're called bin dumpsters or blasters and things like that. We've looked at that. But I think those services are better done with those small independents that can really specialize in those type of products.
Sure.
But we would promote that if, hey, plastic doesn't smell, it's what's inside of it.
They get nasty sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any more questions for Bill?
So it's not a question, I just want to make a statement. In my opinion, this is a really big deal, and we need to not lose sight of that. And I applaud you, Mayor, for taking charge, and I think this is a perfect example of how we can lower the cost of government for our citizens by pooling resources. So I say thank you, and I would urge my fellow council members, when we get to that point, this is a good deal. I think it's a good deal. And lastly, if I can just take a point of personal privilege, I think I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my predecessor, David Giffel, who in the middle of an election came up through this idea out on the table, and while we disagreed on some things during the campaign, this is something that we agreed on totally. And so I give him a shout out.
Thank you, Bill. That's nice. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, do we have first reading? First reading by John Weingart, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 15-090924E. This is a request to approve an amendment to the section 33.22 emergency medical service fees for the City of Fishers Municipal Code. This is also up for first reading.
Good evening, Council. Again, Lindsay Bennett, Corporation Counsel. These are the EMS fees that Mayor Fadness mentioned in his budget presentation. The Fishers Fire Department provides these ambulance services for basic life support and advanced life support for transferring patients to hospitals as needed. And they do charge certain fees for these services. It certainly doesn't cover all of their costs, but it does reimburse some of their costs. They recently reassessed some of these costs to provide the services and looked at comparable services of the other agencies in Hamilton County. And so they're requesting an amendment of those fees. Basic life support would be increased to $750. Advanced life support 1 would be increased to $933, and advanced life support 2 to $1,159.33. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions by council members?
When was the last time we increased those service fees? I'm sorry, I missed that if you said it.
I did look at that. I think it was in 2021. They did increase just a little bit.
Okay, so this goes back to the Finance Committee, as Councilor Weingart was saying, that we probably need to look at these on a rotating basis to make sure that we're staying in line. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have first reading? First reading by John Weingart. Thank you. Moving on to item 16, 08192. 4C, a request to approve an amendment of Chapter 98 of the City of Fishers Municipal Code dealing with noise. Here to present.
Hi there,
This is our
good
Assistant
evening.
Chief. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Fadness. For the record, Assistant Chief Mike Taylor, FPD, requesting a second reading of the proposed amendment to our noise ordinance. As I mentioned at the previous meeting, this ordinance has not been amended for 10 years. The city's seen quite a bit of mixed-use development, and it'll help our officers and communities kind of partner and work together with businesses and help everybody kind of live in harmony or a little bit better. The noise, in summary, the decibels or decibel level of the previous ordinance was a little bit high, made it difficult for what now we have with mixed-use areas with restaurants, residents, et cetera, close together. So the primary changes or recommendations is a lowering of that level down to 70 decibels. Many parts of the ordinance still remain in place as it relates to holidays, weekend times, overnight, et cetera. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions by council members? No questions? My understanding is that there's a business here, King Jugs.
Yes, I do believe there's for sure
Speak.
King Jug and then maybe Parks Place Pub as well.
Okay. Would King Jug like to come up to the podium?
Hi, first of all, I'm Randy DeJohn, owner of King Jug. Also have my partner, Aaron Perlman. First of all, I want to thank the city and the mayor and the city for supporting King Jug, because I think you guys have really supported us with the parking lot, the stripes on the street. We meet here in this same building once every month, month and a half, talk about our parking and our sound issues. Some of the things that we have done and we continue to do, we're a $2.1 million store. The sound ordinance that is being proposed would probably put us out of business. I look at, I just took this off the internet, in this building today, when everyone was laughing, it was at 83. This is the same meter that the police gave me. Most of the time, even when I'm speaking, it's at 65. I do agree that the noise ordinance was a little high. I think it was at 100 or maybe 90, I'm not sure. We hired a sound person on Saturdays. That's usually the issues on Saturdays. We close our restaurant at 10 p.m. I could stay open till midnight. We close at 10. Our sound issues, we quit the music at 9 p.m. on Thursday, 9:30 at Saturday night. Most restaurants are starting music at that time. We end our music at 9:30. Again, we're in business. We don't want to excuse my language, but we don't want to make everybody in the neighborhood mad. We're doing everything we can. I've noticed there's a lot of people sitting in here that frequent our restaurant, and they also live in the apartment building and in the neighborhood behind us. But just in here, like I said, it could be up to 80 decibels. Some of the other things that we are doing with the sound is we're going to put the stage that we do our music which we built. That was about $15,000. We moved it away from the apartment building. It used to face the apartment building and kind of face the neighborhood behind us. We rebuilt it and moved it where it faces Lantern Road and the trees across the street from us. That helped out a ton. We're going to put a roof on this fall of the cost of about $27,000. We're going to put a roof over the stage and insulate the back side of it to also help with the sound. I noticed a gentleman was sitting here earlier. I don't see him now. He's complained a lot. He's come to my store. I've had great conversations with him. He pulled up to me last week when I was getting into my truck, and he thanked me for doing everything that we are doing for the sound. That has gotten a whole lot better. And again, I think meeting with the city has helped us out a ton. You know, one of them said to me last week, I said, listen, we wouldn't be meeting here every once a month if we didn't care about you guys or we didn't like what you were doing. And I took that home and I said to myself, you know, what can we, where's the medium, you know, that we can get this, you know, make this work for everybody? I mean, you know, like I said, we got $2.1 million into this building. And if you've been to our place, it's a beautiful place. We didn't chinch on anything. We wanted to, you know, make a beautiful place for the neighborhood as well. Our beer is in the new stadium, the hockey stadium is coming. We spent a ton of money to get our beer in there. You know, but 70 decibels is almost what we're doing in here right now. The only thing I asked for my proposal is, I think we can do 75 and 80, but it has to be 50 feet from the stage, not 10 feet from the stage. The property line. Yeah, 50 feet. Your proposal is 10 feet. I was 10 feet away from here, and it went to 80. I'm at 75 right now. You know, 50 feet away, the neighborhood behind us down by the Cheney Creek Park, or the parking lot, is 60 decibels with some of my loudest bands, you know. And that's another reason we hired, like I said, we hired a sound person because I want to be able to control the sound. Most bands, you tell them to turn it down, they turn it right back up and you walk away. We hire a guy for $450 that comes every Saturday and he controls the sound. Very rare do we ever go over 90. Very rare. A singer might peak at 93, 94. Thursdays and Sundays, we're always in that 80, 85. 70 probably would not work, but I think if it was 50 feet away, I think we could be real close to that 80 mark, 83. We'll turn it down. But most bands cannot play at 70. That would be almost impossible. There's no way we could have live music on Fridays or Saturdays at 70. Again, I appreciate everything that the city has done, and we will do whatever we can. Trust me, we have $2.1 million invested in that building. We will do whatever we can to make sure that we take care of the neighbors, the apartment building. I have 10 employees. I have 56 employees. 10 of them live in the apartment building. 6 of them live in the neighborhood behind us. And then, like I said, my favorite line is 50% of the people in the apartment building can't stand us. The other 50% are in my store every night. So once again, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. We will continue to do whatever we can to make the sound and parking. Oh, and on the parking real quick, also, we're about ready to spend another, I think it's about $6,000 a year. We hooked up with the building right down on Lantern Road. I'm going to plow. I'm going to take care of the parking lot. In the wintertime, he's going to let us park there. We're going to spend about $5,000 on vehicles that we can transport people. It's not a golf cart. It'll be bicycles or a bus, but we're going to transport people from the building right down the street from us to our place on Friday and Saturday to eliminate the parking issues we have as well. So again, that's pretty much it. You got anything to say, Aaron?
The only thing I would add, I'm Aaron Perlman, one of the co-owners as well. The only thing I would add is the collaborating cities around us, Carmel, Noblesville, theirs is 50 feet. So the sound, where the sound begins at 50 feet is the measurement. And this proposal is 10 feet, which I think would put a lot of bars out of business in this area. So I think if we want to mirror kind of the, adjacent communities, I think that's the standard of what they're doing. The decibel thing is up to you guys. I think what you do, like I said, I think Randy, 70 feels a little low, 75, especially if you're doing the 10 feet. It would have to be up there. So kind of take your pick. Farther away measurement, closer measurement, higher sound decibel. And I just thought this was kind of interesting because I think it's just a conversation. If I ask most of you, I think we've asked a couple people, what is a decibel reading? A normal decibel reading. I don't know what 70 is. I couldn't have told you. 4 months ago, I couldn't have told you until we, had a few people say just a normal conversation is between 60 and 70 decibels. An open office noise, 65 and 70 decibels. An alarm clock, 70 to 80 decibels. A washing machine, 70 decibels. A dishwasher, 70 decibels. Restaurant, 70 to 80 decibels. A vacuum cleaner, 60 to 80. Just kind of some things. I wanted to look common stuff on the internet. I just looked up, so wanted to share that. Thank you for your time. By the way, I love the Agri Park. Go there all the time with my kid. Absolutely a blast. That was a home run.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Good evening. If you could just state your name and your business for the record, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Matt Whitlow, and I'm one of the owners of Parks Place Pub. So thank you guys for giving me a moment tonight. Say a lot of the same things Randy just said. Main thing for us isn't necessarily music, because we can kind of put it inside, but we have a patio. A lot of people have sat on that patio. If you're out there and there's more than 25 people and you're 10 feet away, you're over 70 decibels. And that's at lunch on a Wednesday afternoon with TV sound in the background and 25 or 30 people out there. I mean, I stood out there for hours the other day, 71, 72. You guys probably know Matt Schlier more than you do myself. He's my other owner, and he's sitting in there saying, "What are we talking at now?" And I'm like, "Too loud, knock it down," 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when we opened, we had all kinds of issues. These guys can probably tell you cops were outside our door like 4 nights a week. But we did things to fix it. We soundproofed. We added a massive pergola on the outside that has winter, we can soundproof it down in the winter. We can open it up. We did a lot of those things preemptive to meet what was required of us at that time. You put a 70 decibel reading 10 feet away, we can't have lunch. All that is just for nothing. I don't want to say we would never be able to figure it out, but we would spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to put thicker vinyl out there and more stuff in the ceiling, and there just comes a point for us that what makes sense, you know what I mean? And I think the current decibel is 90 at 40 feet, if I remember properly from multiple conversations. And we were under that even when you guys used to come out all the time, but we still weren't a good neighbor for everybody that lived on top of us. So you could stand on the road out by us and it would be 76, 74, 69, but we still had 270 apartments on top of us that didn't ask for us to move in. Well, the difference now is those 270 apartments are full of people that moved there to be a part of the vibrant, loud downtown Fishers with more options of things to do. Before I went to this meeting, I had a meeting with the depot. They haven't had a complaint about us in 8 months, which I was shocked. I thought maybe they just given up on telling me because we didn't really change much because we weren't breaking any laws. We just tried to put more soundproofing in. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We're not at those meetings with those guys every month. I don't know. Maybe we didn't get the invite, or maybe we're too quiet and we need to raise it up a little bit. But I don't feel like we're having issues, right now and being a bad neighbor. I feel like we are blending in with kind of what's going on down here. I'm in the process of trying to do another business. It's going to be over by the event center. This 70 decibel thing scares the death out of me. It makes me want to put the brakes on right this second, because why would I invest millions of dollars into another project where I have to put everybody in a room like this that's closed doors where nobody outside can feel any air or enjoy the people, enjoy what Fishers is bringing. We want to be open air and see all that and mingle with everybody and have a good time. And I think the article said it's 70 decibels is like a vacuum. We'll put 250 vacuums together because that's what's in our restaurant on a Thursday through Sunday, watching football, screaming when the Colts score or don't score. So it's tough to run the type of business that we are, or they are, or a lot of businesses in Fishers, and adhere to anything close to 70. Sure, there are nights that there are some of our bands, we are like, turn it down, you know, and we go back there and turn it down and, you know, put a hard stop on it. Now it doesn't even actually go up past a certain level because they don't listen. They just crank it up and keep having a good time. But I mean, we've done all we can since July 3 years ago when we opened, and I feel like we've been a better neighbor to the community with the things that we've tried to do. And I would just hate to see them kind of go by the wayside just because there's going to be a new ordinance come in that, honestly, if you stand on 116th Street, try to have a taco at the restaurant next to us that doesn't even have music or anything, it's 80 to 90 decibels just from traffic all day out there. You can't stop traffic. You know, somebody mowing the yard, you know, all those things. So I appreciate all you guys, a bunch of familiar faces in here.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it.
You guys have a good night.
Thank you very much to both representatives. And I'd like to add and say that they've been nothing but great partners for us with the police department. And in our experience or time with the previous noise ordinance, anytime we encounter issues or problems, they've been nothing but great partners, much to his examples or both gentlemen's examples about what they're either have already done or planning to do. I worked on this with our patrol commander, Major Ryan Jones, who's here, and also with City Attorney Lindsay Bennett. And the recommended changes actually align almost verbatim with our neighbors in Carmel and Noblesville. The other thing that I think is important to note is the 10 feet, there is a line within proposed changes about 10 feet, but what we're talking about from a noise decibel measurement is no less than 50 feet from the source. So if it's a speaker or an amplifier or what have you, it actually is out to that 50-foot minimum measurement, if not more. And the
So
other
not
thing,
10?
There's a 10-foot provision, sir, but that's getting into hours and different things. So
It's 50 feet from the source.
no less than 50 feet as measured from the device, the sound source.
It's from the stage, correct?
Or an amplifier, a speaker, wherever that's located at.
50 feet.
Correct. No
But what's
less
the
than.
10, I'm confused on that, then what's the 10-foot?
There's a 10-foot from property line after hours, which I think both gentlemen have stated they're shut off or done well before that anyhow.
So that'd be after they're closed.
Correct. And overnight hours is when you get into provisions of 10 foot or exactly on a property line. The reason that the 10 foot comes into place in our experience in communicating with Carmel is any dispute or argument over, you know, what exactly is a property line. An example I would give is if we were called to a noise complaint at a residence and there's a fence and you can't, you know, if I'm standing or it's unclear and I can't access, but what's obvious to be 10 foot or more away and I measure and it's an obvious violation, it gives us the authority to communicate with the resident and request compliance, which is always our first aim. And I would hope, you know, in our communication with the business partners here recently and over the years too, has always been, you know, in compliance and working together, so.
And can you tell us, in your opinion, how far from the stage of King Jug to the apartment complex?
That's gonna be over 50 foot.
It's 125
Yeah,
feet.
so.
125 feet to somebody's bedroom.
Correct.
Thank you.
And to the gentleman's point, right, the noise in here earlier, yes, because we have a meter, is, for us, was it 65, 70 with some laughter or what have you? Well, that's well within 50 feet of where we've been sitting all night. So, like I said, it aligns with what Carmel's done with some mixed use and things closer to the Monon there where they had similar issues. Had communication with the Chamber of Commerce. We actually have a call set tomorrow, and I'd be happy to make sure they're both invited on there from the business community. There's going to be a call later this week also with HOAs and the residential side to communicate and work through the ordinance or any recommended changes or questions, et cetera, as well.
Any other questions from, I know this has been something that's been affected in your district, Bill, so I know you.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this forward, and I'm in support of the new ordinance. I've, you know, aside from the apartment complex that's 120 feet from somebody's bedroom, a half mile away in Heritage Meadow, I've stood in some of those driveways on band night, and, you know, I appreciate the fact that they cut it off at 9 o'clock, but if you live on that side of Heritage Meadows and you've got an 18-month-old child that goes to bed at 7 o'clock, you can't go to bed at 7 o'clock. It's that loud. And so the intent of this is to try to, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, we can get some acoustic bands or something like that, but we're getting very large, very popular bands that bring out a crowd. And I would have bet it's very successful from the business side of it, but it's impacting the neighborhood that was kind of there for 30 or 40 years, and then we get a restaurant in the middle of a neighborhood, and it's not ideal. It's not ideal for those people that live on that side of the neighborhood.
Yes, sir, and that's why, you know, from a police department standpoint, what we're hoping to do is kind of bring all entities together and work to formulate something that's going to mirror best practices nearby and for the Fishers community. And not only the residents, but businesses as well. Much to the gentleman's point, we want them to succeed and do well also, and we've had very good luck in communicating with any partners in the past. Some of those being out at the reservoir, and I couldn't tell you the last time we've had an issue or a complaint come through on our end, and they have live music, et cetera, as well, which is traveling on water at that. So that's kind of the aim, the goal. The city's changed a lot since 2014, and that's the last time this ordinance has been touched, and it's just time to update it.
And I really support that. I mean, your work was fantastic. I support this. I know, I appreciate our police go out and proactively try to help bring solutions instead of trying to bring problems. And that is fantastic. And it looks like we have partners in the community, business partners that are trying to do, you know, work as well. So it's tough for me because I want to make sure that we're not unintentionally doing something to harm a business, because no one here is intentionally trying to do that. There's not a person here. So the 50 feet, I know I keep getting caught on this, but I just want to make sure. So gentlemen, the 50 feet, does that work for you? You're saying the 50, because I thought you said the 10 feet doesn't work for you.
Yeah, the 50 feet from the stage would take us to the sidewalk. So, I mean, you know, I was hoping that it was 50 feet from the sidewalk or outside our fence, 50 feet. 50 feet from the stage would take us to the sidewalk. So you're almost still in the property. You know, we have a fence around, you know, the yard where we play. But I do believe in the spring when we put the stage up and insulate it, I think it's going to make a huge difference. But still, 50 feet from the sound source is only like 5 feet off the property.
So for Parks Place, I have a question. So what if it's not music? What if it's just 100 people on the patio? You know, I mean, that could be just as loud or louder than music.
So within the ordinance itself, and that's part of what I think was a misinterpretation of the distances and language, there's definitions on the front end. So for instance, crowd noise is not the same as noise emitted from a device. So business noise or normal patronage of a business is not included within that. Yep.
50 feet can work for us. I mean, it's basically no different for us than what.
I don't want to cause a wrinkle here, but I think we're having second reading. We have these meetings scheduled with the business community. There's obviously some confusion here. I have some confusion a little bit on the 50 feet from the source, because if I own a building that's 150 feet long and there's a stage up front, am I in violation if the noise exceeds 50 feet from the stage?
That's my
Even though I'm
exact
still within my
concern.
property, you know, I guess my point is, I don't think there's any harm in having second reading and allowing us to socialize this with the business community over the next couple days. I know we want to get this done, and we're all committed to change. I think we do need to change with the times of our city. But I don't want to change on the basis of confusion or misunderstanding. I want to make sure we get this right. And the other thing I would say too to everybody is, you can set a policy and you can change a policy. Like, just because we go do this, you implement a policy, then you evaluate how it works, then if you have to make modifications, you do so. So I don't think, we're not changing the United States Constitution here. We're working through a new policy. So my recommendation to council, if I could, or if I may, would be, let's hold second reading, but not take a final vote. Let's have these meetings with the business community here over the next few days, bring it back next month and make any changes and vote it up or down at that point, because there does seem to be some ambiguity as we work through this.
Mayor, I agree. I think that would be ideal and good. I think, I appreciate the businesses coming up and being good business partners, community partners, and investing in our community. And I hope that we could really work together to come to a common ground, some solution together, with more input from everybody. So anybody, Brad?
I live in Britton Falls, which is the northeast corner of Fishers. And if you're sitting on our back patio, we can listen to the Ruoff concerts, which is a couple miles away.
Mayor, when you come back with that information, you stated that we could change the ordinance if this doesn't work. Could you define what works and what doesn't work? And at what point do we need to go back and look at defining it? The goal is not to put a business out of business, but we need to allow the residents to have rest.
To be clear, it could very well put a business out of business if the business is violating, like if you can't function, this is what you guys do. You have to set a policy that you think is appropriate for our community to coexist, right? And you have to set those guardrails. And I think this is what Assistant Chief Taylor and everyone's trying to come up with. I just think we need to refine some of that language so that there's no ambiguity. We need to socialize it with everyone so there's no surprises. And then ultimately, you guys are gonna have to make a decision on what's the balancing act as we coexist in a mixed-use development. I just think we probably need one more step in this before you guys make that final vote. If you wanna vote tonight, that's fine. I think there's some conversations that could be had and some clarity that could be brought, prior to.
I think it's best, we have partners all around trying to work together. So if it was one person not trying to work, they're just being belligerent or whatever, then fine, but everybody's trying to get the right thing done, so.
Yes, sir, there's not been any issue like that. And to add to a point the mayor made earlier, I would say that any time we've been called, we've had nothing but compliance from the business side. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't, just to their point too, if they have a band in there that's doing their thing and we get called, we show up and we address it. And
This policy isn't for the people that do what they're supposed to. This is to have something for our law enforcement folks, that when a resident calls at their wit's end because someone's not being a good neighbor, that we actually have something that we can enforce. And so that's really why we're doing it. But I think an extra month wouldn't kill us to work on this.
Bill, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I just want everyone to have that perspective that in this specific location, it's one thing at the Fishers District, as we talked about before, it's another, this location is unique. And these are very big bands that are coming.
I think that's the big issue right there.
And they're very loud. And, so we can hash this out as much as we can, but there's going to be a point where the decision is this the appropriate place next to a neighborhood that's been there for 40 years for big bands like,
I think you're right. I think that's been something where it's a big band. The Y Store is a pretty big band with a big following. It's not local artist playing the guitar or whatever. So it carries, it's
It's base
So
coming
maybe
through your
those are the
bedroom.
conversations that need to be had of what type of entertainment you're having affects, I would think, affects that reading, the noise level, you know.
Different districts have different.
And, sorry, and Madam Chair, President, and I will add to that, that it's two issues in this particular location. It's not only the sound, but the popularity of these bands and this bar. It drives, the parking ends up in the neighborhood because it's overflow. There isn't enough parking. Now, maybe this going down the road is going to help with that. I guess I'll believe that when I see, people are going to stop here to get on a bike to go up there when they can just keep driving to get to the restaurant. But the overflow is going into the neighborhood, which has really narrow streets. And the houses are single lot line houses. They're really close together. And so on band night, they may stop the music at 9 o'clock, but the patrons are not done at the restaurant until midnight, and they're coming and all that noise that goes along with that.
We close at 10 p.m.
You close at 10?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So but
All right.
the overflow goes into the neighborhood.
Sure. Thank you. So second reading, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be back next month. Okay, moving on to planning and zoning, item number 17-052024B. This is a consideration of a text amendment to the Fall Creek Marketplace PUD, updates to the concept plan, land use development standards. This is located on the intersection of Southeastern Parkway and Cynthia Ann Road for the Meyer Kroger and the M Express Vehicle Fuel Station.
Good evening. For the record, Ross Hillary, Director of Planning and Zoning. Correct, item 17 is ordinance 052024B, which is a text amendment to the Fall Creek Marketplace for the Meyer Grocery and M Express. Little background on the property. It is located near the intersection of Cynthia Ann and Southeastern Parkway. On the left, you can see the site location. On the right, you can see the PUD map. This is a PUD from 2006. So this is not a new PUD, but they are requesting a text amendment, like President Coble said, to update the concept plan, as well as the use and maximum square footage. Here is a concept plan that is included in the PUD text amendment. You can see in the middle the grocery store use, as well as two outlots, and the M Express, which is their fuel station. Here is entry perspective that is included. This was approved at our PUD committee earlier this year. Meyer has done some things to reduce sign square footage, so staff has worked with them on that. Included in the PUD text amendment is elevations for the Meyer Grocery, which does include the materials that are required to be used, percentage of glass, et cetera. Again, all included within that text amendment. Also included is the elevation of the M Express. You'll notice on the site plan that the gas station is directed towards the grocery store, so the back is adjacent to Southeastern Parkway. Also included is the elevation of the M Express canopy. This will have a masonry bases along the entire canopy. In the Fishers 2040 plan, this area is designated as neighborhood mixed use, which is in line with the PUD text. But I'd like to go over a couple items which came from Plan Commission. This did receive a favorable recommendation before you with two conditions, which is item 2 and item 3. They would like to work with the Welshel Springs neighborhood to add additional buffering within their common area. Meyer has agreed to do that with 44 trees in total, 22 deciduous, and 22 evergreens. There is an option for the HOA to also receive that fund directly if they so desire for the sake of planting of those trees. Again, they've agreed to that. The other item was to adhere to the traffic pattern that was included in your staff report. That detailed from the engineering department the access points. They have also agreed to that commitment as well. The last one that I'd like to include, which was on our staff report for Plan Commission, is the requirement for the buffer yard standards. So they've agreed to the buffer yards along the north and along the western property. There were some concerns from residents about additional screening requirements along Southeastern and Cynthian, and staff believes that if we use our large buffer yard standards, that will meet that concern. Ross Byer and Tim Oakes are here if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Ross. Are there any questions, Brad? That's your district. Do you have any specific questions? I had a question. There's
Yeah, can you put the site plan back up?
yeah, there's a question I had on.
Okay, can you explain, or maybe Hakeem can?
If you are the pointer, I'll go through each access point if you'd like. So that one is different than what is included in our traffic letter. So our traffic letter requires that to be a right out only, so there will be no left in, and they have agreed to that requirement. That is a full access, so you have a left in, right out, as well as, again, it's a full access opening there. So that is a right in, right out, that is along Southeastern Parkway. And that is a right in, right out, left in. That left in allows for traffic traveling along Southeastern Parkway to access, as well as their truck delivery.
Okay.
What about the plat that's next to the coffee shop? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, so great question, and Tim Oakes and Ross Byer can touch on it as well. One of the things that was requested of them was to work with Schoolhouse 7. So there's an offer on the table for a lease option as well as a purchase option for that considered outlot there. So there was a request from Councilor DeReamer to have that as kind of a soft condition from Plan Commission. But last I heard that offer is still on the table for Mr. Tappendorf if he chooses to move forward with that.
So what happens with that if they don't come to an agreement?
I would assume it would not be constructed.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Tim Oakes, attorney for Meyer. The offer to Schoolhouse 7 remains on the table. What's currently being offered is actually an easement for the area that would, for no cost for 7 years. At the end of the 7 years, there's an option to purchase, or they can continue to rent the area for $2,500 a year. And it would allow for an additional 25 parking spaces. The offer remains open, and it will continue to remain open. It's accommodated for in the site plan. If it's never done, it'll more than likely become green area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I know there were safety concerns that the city had, were concerned about, and want to make sure that those traffic issues, safety concerns are going to be.
We appreciate Meyer's willingness to come to the table and work with our staff, and I don't want to speak for Mackie and Ross, but we feel at this point that they've acquiesced to all of our requests.
Great.
And we would like to really thank staff, planning, and engineering for sitting down, rolling up their sleeves, and taking all of our calls. I think we really worked hard on it. We did a traffic impact study, so I think we ended up at an acceptable location.
Mm-hmm. We appreciate Meyer working with staff and the residents and everybody to really, hone down and really get to the details to make this a good project. So thank you.
Ross, I have a quick question. I'm super excited about this, and I love the way we're working on the traffic. As we think about like the surrounding communities, with Meyer, what time are deliveries and restocking? What time does that happen?
I'm going to have someone that knows better than I do answer that.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Smallwood with Wolpert, 4454 Idea Center Boulevard. With regards to the overall delivery times, the vast majority of the delivery times happen during what would be considered normal business hours, from earlier in the morning, around 6 o'clock is when those start. I will say that there are typically 1 to 2 overnight deliveries for the fresh trucks. Those are the restocking of the grocery items within the store. Typically what happens is that there would be an empty truck. A Meyer truck would pull in, drop a trailer, pick up the empty trailer and leave. Then that trailer is unloaded and subsequent truck would come through and same operation happen again. So there are a couple of overnight deliveries, but the vast majority of deliveries happen during the normal course of a business day like any other grocery would have.
Thank you.
And what were the business hours again for the store and the state and the gasoline station?
Meyer is planning on being open from 6 to midnight in this location, and same operating hours for the M Express as well.
Okay.
So there will be folks in the store overnight stocking, but it ceases business operation to the public at midnight.
Thank you.
Team, is there a median going to be constructed there?
There will be a median that eliminates the U-turn from the right turn out from that. It's just an extension of that.
The extension that's right there in front of the schoolhouse will be extended all the way up?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was their initial concept plan. There's a lot of updates.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for the petitioner or anybody?
One more for Team. What's the logic for not allowing the right in?
I think for the record, Hatem Mekki, Director of Engineering, City of Fishers. I think in order for us to also care about the sensitivity of the area, we wanted the full access to be there, one of the access points there, and that to us, eliminating people to turning U-turns coming out from the property itself, we would have to median out the whole entire area, and that messes up with the traffic patterns for the school next door. So for us, allowing that to be a right out and accessing the M Express from the full access is the best operational point for that area.
The other context here too, Councilmember Dreamer, is you're entertaining a rezone tonight for another use just up the road that's going to generate an awful lot of traffic in PM and AM peak hours. So a lot of thought went into how can we allow for commerce to occur here, but not completely choke down the area with the schools and then with this daycare that's being considered as well.
I was just looking at, to me, if I just want to get gas, that would have been easy. But now if I want to get gas, I got to come in here, go all the way through all of that to go get gas.
You do have the access of just going down Cynthian and utilizing the roundabout for a safer operation, and then coming in the right in on Southeastern.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
So our point was to utilize the roundabout as much as possible, because that was an asset that the city provided for the neighborhood and that location.
I have to explain all that to Brick Falls people.
Right.
Elder did it.
Draw map. Yeah. Easiest route.
You can tell when they call about the trash.
The trash.
Call the trash number.
We'll get you a spreadsheet set up, Brad, get neighbors, call-in center. Dreamer Direct.
Thank you. Is there anybody else with any questions? Is there a motion to approve the text amendment for Fall Creek Marketplace? So motion by John Weingart, second by Brad DeReamer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 18, 061724. This is a consideration of the text amendment to the UDO of the creation of a new commercial low-impact district and commercial low-impact overlay district.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Ross Hillary, City of Fishers. Ordinance 061724 is, like Council President said, the request for an overlay district as well as a new commercial impact district for the City of Fishers UDO. So a little bit of background on this. This is a potential citywide update. We have identified around 35 parcels along our primary corridors that we believe, a term that was used early on, are orphan parcels. So a residential neighborhood built up around it, and these parcels were adjacent to our roads. As we grew as a community, the roads got a little bit more traffic on it. And it is considered at some points to be a non-desirable use anymore. That is a terminology that has come from our realtors as they're trying to find new uses for this property. We came up a couple of times in the past couple of years where the developer was leading the conversation, and so we thought it was best for us to have some language to utilize with that. So what we're seeing here tonight, or as a request, is an overlay district on the parcels that we've identified, as well as a new district that these parcels, if they were to rezone, would default to. The uses that are within there are limited to office, medical office, beauty hair salon, day spa, and nail salon. I won't do as I did at Plan Commission and go through each address, but this was included as part of our noticing requirements. I did talk with a lot of these residents. They were aware that their property, as it's zoned right now, residential, will not change. But what is happening is they're being placed within an overlay district. If it is approved tonight. And as mentioned, that if these properties were to seek a rezone in the future, they would default to this zoning district. That does not take out the responsibility that we have, that these properties would still go through a rezone process, which all the neighbors would be notified with, but it does have a common language and standards that we have. As mentioned here, I said when the property is requested to be rezoned, it would default to this new low-impact commercial district. As you guys are aware, we have C1, C2, C3. Those increase and increases of the use. I'm considering this C-low below a C1, so I didn't want to call it C0. But with that new zoning district does have development standards, limited uses, examples for architecture, as well as a site plan. So things like parking must be on the side or rear. The building must be equal to residential and nature character. There's maximum floor areas, maximum heights, as well as standards on landscaping, lighting, time of business, signage, etc. We did receive a favorable recommendation from Plan Commission. There was one update that did not make it into that ordinance before you tonight, and so staff does recommend approval as presented with the language that the residential architecture shall not be in conflict with the surrounding neighborhood character. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate you and your team doing this, because this is long overdue to provide more clarity and understanding of the vision of that area. So are there any other comments or questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Todd Zimmerman, second by Selena Stoller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 19090924G. This is a consideration of a rezone request from R2 residential to PUDC for 2.69 acres for a proposed daycare located at 12344 Cynthia Ann Road for Kids City, USA.
Thank you, Ross Hillary, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you is 090924G, which is a request for a rezone to a new PUD called Kids City, USA. As Mayor Fadness alluded to, this is just north of the mire that you approved tonight. So that interest has started to look at the areas around. This is a 3.61 acre as it is today. It is an R2 residential lot. So what they are requesting is for a rezone for a daycare. This site plan will already be updated before it comes back to you again. They've worked already with engineering on access points, so this will have a single access point. It will be a single lot with a single building that will be incorporated into that PUD. One item I'd like to show, if you look on the right side of your screen or the south side of the project, as part of their open space requirements, they are connecting a trail from the right-of-way to Cynthia Park behind, and they will meet all the way. That's something that our Department of DPW, has already agreed to. And I think it's an innovative way of providing open space. It's not just kind of a trail around a pond or a bench on the trail, but an actual opportunity to connect to our park system. As with any of these PUDs, we also will have the requirement for it to go through our PUD approval. So there's some early site renderings. One thing that's on here, if the daycare would cease to exist, there are additional low impact uses that would be allowed within this PUD, which my notes have done a good job. So those uses that would be allowed in this would defer to C1. A child care center would be allowed, a clinic, an office, personal services for optometry, or a medical use would be allowed at this location. The project timeline for this, this is the proposed first reading in front of City Council, and we anticipate them going before Plan Commission and PUD in November, and then back here for final reading in November. Staff does recommend first reading, and Bill Evans is here if you have any additional questions from the developer.
Thanks, Ross. Are there any questions?
I have a question about the traffic. I know the mayor was saying that, this is going to be increasing the traffic in this area, especially with the mire and stuff. What is the traffic report on this? I mean, no road improvements needed or anything like that at this point?
So I'll let Tim chime in, but that was one of the reasons that this has already gone before our engineering department.
Okay.
They proposed the multiple access points. We've reduced that. They would be required to do our typical A cell and D cell that's on there. So there are road improvements on Cynthia Ann that aren't shown here. But is there anything else that you would add?
So it's going to be a single access point?
Yeah, yes, the northern access point is the recommendation from our engineering department.
So it's going to be one access point with acceleration and deceleration kind of blisters?
That one
Which one? That one?
would be the access point.
Any other comments by council?
And I'm Tyler Underwood with RU2. I know the traffic, obviously, with the mire coming now and school and everything, and then, you're thinking daycare, and that can be, that's a valid concern and point. One thing, I've developed about 3 or 4 of these over the last few years between Goddard and this Kid City franchise. We're doing about another 4 or 5 of them here around central Indiana and even into Kentucky for these people. So, and that question always comes up is traffic and understanding how the flow and everything. So just kind of something that we've always looked at is, daycare type pickup and drop off is obviously different than the schools timeframes where you've got thousands of kids coming in on buses, or now it seems like everybody takes their kids to school and picks them up with the lines that you see. And unfortunately, I ended up having to be one of those parents here in Fishers with my kindergartner. So, but with the daycare, it's a little bit different. So this facility is looking at maybe up to 180 students, you start looking into how many families have multiple kids. I was taking 2 kids to a daycare. When I go, kids at the daycare where I take mine, families have multiple kids. So you're not looking at 180 separate individual families, Now, what's that number? Who knows? It's who enrolls at that school. But part of that too is the pickup and drop-off windows. Drop-off is typically 6 a.m. to 9, because a lot of these schools kind of start their curriculum type stuff, or they want 9 o'clock is when they want. So you have a 6 to 9, and depending on, your job, where you work, everybody's a little bit different on when they're gonna be dropping their kids off. And then pickup is somewhere between, 3 to 6 o'clock-ish, depending on, again, what type of job, where you're coming from. There's people who do half days. There are people who only do a couple days a week. So the traffic ebbs and flows a lot with a center like this, with, the timing of pickup and drop off. You don't see, you're not going to see 80 cars coming in there all at one time, or within a half-hour span to drop their kids off. From dropping my kids off and developing these and working with, a bunch of different municipalities, you see 5 or 6 people, and it's,
I apologize, not to interrupt, but I think the good news here, as the gentleman's speaking, we've built and developed probably 20 daycares in Fishers. So to your conversations about traffic patterns and from a plan review standpoint, I feel confident Mekhi and the team can model out the amount of traffic that's going to come in and out and the timing of it.
Yeah.
So.
And I just want to be, and from our standpoint, I just want to let you guys, we are trying to be very aware of being so close to an elementary and the junior high intermediate right there. It's obviously a big, a lot of traffic and at certain times of the day, but, different than some of the other places that you're seeing these daycares pop up. I feel like this is a very underserved area of Fishers, because that is where a lot of the growth is happening, is, between, I live at 104th and Florida.
I'll call for a first
Yeah,
reading.
we're good.
Yeah, we're good, thank you.
Thank you,
I call
thank
for a
you. I
first-
think
I call for a first
everyone's
reading.
getting ready
First
to be done for the evening. Thank you for that. Okay, we have first reading, so we're gonna move on to items 20 and 21. These are both related to the voluntary annexation of 12685 Lantern Road. So item 20 is R090924C, request to approve a resolution adopting the physical plan of Lantern Road annexation.
Yep, you've said everything. So the first item, item 20, is the resolution to adopt the fiscal plan. Item 21 is the request to approve the voluntary annexation, 12685 Lantern Road, half-acre lot. They are required to annex because of a sewer connection. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions as a voluntary annexation?
Motion to move item 20.
Motion to approve item 20 by
Second.
John Weingart, second by Tiffany Detlefsen. All those in favor say aye.
Motion to approve item 21.
21.
Second.
Motion by John Weingart, second by Todd Zimmerman. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're moving on to items 22 and 23. These are also related, annexation of Southeast Fishers. Item 22 is R090924D, the approval to adopt the resolution, the fiscal plan for Southeast Fishers annexation, and item 23, 090924C, is a request to approve an ordinance annexing the territory, placing the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Fishers, Southeast Fishers annexation. So, thank you.
Good evening, Council. Lindsay Bennett, Corporation Counsel. I'm here tonight to discuss the Southeast Fishers annexation. I want to start by acknowledging our department heads who really put the pen to paper and came up with some good numbers for us to plug into the fiscal plan. And also want to acknowledge Jordan Alexander, who has really worked hard on this. as well. I'm just covering for her tonight, but she's really put in quite a bit of work on this project. If you recall, we had a work session a couple of months ago where Jordan presented this very information. We're looking at 960 parcels with 994.7 acres of land in unincorporated Hamilton County. Of those, we have approximately 74% of parcels with non-remonstrance waivers that are tied to zoning designations and sewer service. There's been a long time understanding that this area would eventually be annexed into Fishers. In 2005, this area was entered into an agreement for the city to provide zoning jurisdiction with Fall Creek Township, and in the past few years, the city provided zoning approval to the developers of Vermillion and Flat Fork neighborhoods based on the understanding that this area would eventually become Fishers. So the developers of Vermillion, Flat Fork, they have entered into these non-remonstrance waivers to secure approval for zoning for those neighborhoods. We also have non-remonstrance waivers with Rosanna Village, who recently tied into the city sewer system. Between these, we do have roughly 74% of non-remonstrance waivers. Since we last met, since you last saw this, we've held 6 public meetings as Indiana code requires. We had city staff in attendance at each of those meetings, and we had over 100 people over those six meetings. We've created a landing page that we update frequently with FAQs, and we also have an email address where anyone can direct any questions that they may have about the annexation. So some of the benefits of annexation, these newly annexed residents will be able to vote in local elections. They'll be eligible for appointments on boards and commissions within the city. They'll enjoy discounted rates on camps, classes, and park rentals. They'll be eligible for individualized programs with their health department, such as the fall prevention program, social work staff, education that's currently provided by the health department to residents. We have grant programs that will be available to them, like our neighborhood vibrancy grants, stormwater grants, and any property owners that live along and maintain private roads can petition the city to take that road into its inventory, relieving that property owner of the financial burden of maintenance. I'm going to cover briefly the fiscal plan. It's 145 pages, so I will go through it very, very quickly. A fiscal plan is essentially a budgeting tool to determine estimated costs of planned capital and non-capital services versus anticipated revenue. The capital services will be provided within 3 years. That includes things that are more tangible, like your street construction, repairs, sewer facilities, stormwater drainage facilities, public safety vehicles, CDL trucks. Non-capital services are going to be provided within 1 year. That includes more like staffing, your police protection, fire protection, street and road maintenance, and statute requires any other services of a non-capital nature provided to residents that are currently within the city's boundaries. This is just a overview of the fiscal plan showing the total revenue minus the high-end and low-end capital and non-capital costs. This is found on page 16 of the fiscal plan with all the details on the capital and non-capital costs for each department if you want to review it. Definitely will not be going into this in detail, but it is there if you're interested. It shows the lit projections each year with and without annexation. It's found on page 32 of the fiscal plan if you want to review it more in depth. So some of the city services that will be impacted, such as fire. Our fire department does service this area with a contract between the city and Fall Creek Township, so nothing much will change there. We'll just amend the contract so that fire will take over this area. Police will assume policing responsibility for the proposed area. Roadways will be absorbed into the city's inventory for maintenance and resurfacing. We'll begin snow removal approximately, said fall of 2026, but winter of 2026. Sanitary sewer, the city already provides sanitary in this area for the most part. There's some on septic, so whenever those septics begin to fail, they will have the opportunity to connect into the sanitary sewer. The city will assume stormwater responsibilities in this area, and just tying into our discussion early on trash, residential units will begin to receive trash service January of 26, but the HOA neighborhoods can request trash to start sooner. So that would be Vermillion, Flat Fork, and Rosanna Village, any other HOA neighborhoods that might be out there. Residents in the area will have access to city parks, of course, but they'll become eligible for city resident discounts immediately. Residents will continue to have access to clinic services, but will become eligible for individualized programming immediately. This is something I pulled off of our website. It shows the property tax impact using different assessed value scenarios. It takes the gross assessed value, less deductions, and applies a formula to show the post-annexation impact. We also have a calculator on the website, so anybody in this area can go in, they can put in their parcel number or their name, and it will show the actual impact on their property. The one on the website shows scenarios from 300,000 to 3.5 million, and it is pretty accurate, but again, you can go and plug your information into the calculator on the website. So, quick timeline. Last time we were here talking about this, we had just sent notice to residents about the public meetings that were occurring in July and August. We're here tonight for the ordinance introduction and to adopt the fiscal plan. We'll hold a public hearing in November, and then we will adopt the ordinance in January. That will begin the remonstrance and appeal period. We're hoping to have this finished up by May or June of 2025. And just do want to note that the first tax impact that residents will see in this area will be 2026, pay 2027. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Lindsay. Are there any questions, my council?
Fortville understands we're not stealing their ground.
Good, okay. Do we have first reading? Anybody? First reading by Todd Zimmerman. Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
So I do need the resolution for the fiscal plan. We do have to adopt the fiscal plan before we can move.
Okay, that's right. Hello. It's been, okay. Do I have a motion to approve the fiscal plan? Motion by Todd Zimmerman, second by John Weingart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. First reading for item 23. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to item 24. No, we do not have any unfinished business or new business, so we're moving on to community comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Cowden. I'm a resident of Fisher for 30 years. I just wanted to comment about property taxes. Property taxes have gone up quite a bit since I've been in Fishers. And I was looking at my property tax bills, and while the rates have stayed pretty much the same, the assessed values have gone up substantially, and it went up 66% in the past 5 years. So that's caused my city taxes to go up 69% in 5 years. So, and I'm sure you as Fishers residents know that as well. The school taxes have gone up as well. They've gone up 50% in 5 years, and the city taxes have gone up 69%. So I'm just asking that in the future, when you look at budgets, you look at not just the tax rate itself, but the impact on homeowners, because their assessed values are going up substantially. So that's just my request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, my name is Marcy Keller, and I'm at 11114 Autumn Harvest Drive. I'm part of Heritage Meadows, which is one of the neighborhoods that is impacted on all sides from the growth and vibrancy of Fishers. I'm a longtime resident, been here since '78. Love it. We're one of, we've basically been impacted by the trail, King Jug, and an age, basically. We're getting old. I know that we aren't shiny, we're not new, but we invested in a quiet life in downtown Fishers, and we just want you guys to pay attention to us. Bill is, so we really appreciate that, but listen to him. We've got a lot of longtime residents. We did not sign up for multi-use development, and we'd love to get your attention. So we'll be here at future city council meetings. We've got 165 properties. We've sent out a survey to those residents, and we've gotten almost 70% result in 2 weeks. we actually really give a crap about our neighborhood and where we live. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Heather Hale, and I live at 8443 Trappers Court, also in Heritage Meadows. But my concern is also kind of mirroring what Marcy is saying, but also the trail. We are directly on the trail, and we have had a huge increase in electric vehicles. I believe that you were even on the trail and almost run over by 3 of them recently, Councilman. And so I don't know if it is an increase in police presence or what it needs to be done. Stop sticks, I don't know. But it is posing danger to our family, our neighborhood and such. So I asked just for an increase in that. Someone mentioned earlier too, and this is a brain idea that I've had for a couple years, as Fishers continues to grow and we see the impact of the Yard and King Jugs and Park Place Pub. Like we said, we can't keep expanding our roads, so what we need to be thinking of is a different option. I've lived in Louisiana, I've lived in many places where there were public transport options like trolleys or different things, and that might be something that Fishers could consider that could go between the Yard and downtown Fishers and provide a loop that people could easily access at no cost or low cost that would save our roads a ton. So just that would help with parking, but also access to someone that wants to go to Fishers Event Center, but then wants to come over and have dinner at King Jugs or vice versa. So just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your comments about the electric scooters. That's something we're discussing actively, and we're aware of the issue and trying to rectify either through a public ad campaign or through enforcement. Certainly don't need to see that number or the speed that some of these folks are going on those are pretty crazy. So the guy behind you is actually running point on that for us. So we're working on it.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Hi, I'm Rachel Quaid. I've lived in the city of Fishers for over 20 years. I'm sure most of you are aware this weekend there was a Fishers Pride event at a local church. And while I'm sure there were many worthwhile activities at this event, one activity that I don't see as worthwhile was a drag show for children. There were grown men up on stage, poured into leotards, tights, and thongs, writhing around on the stage, coming down where the children were, bending over in a provocative way, and then getting tips, dollar tips from the kids. This is not cute. This is not funny. This was unacceptable. For people who say this is private property, people can do what they want on their own land. We all know there are plenty of things that can be done on private property to children that aren't tolerable. As a city, we have to have standards. We sell the city as being family friendly, and I believe we are family friendly. But I don't know a lot of people who look at the pictures and videos we saw from this weekend's event and consider this family-friendly events. What I propose is for all of you to work together and develop an ordinance that limits drag shows in the city of Fishers to 18 and over. Earlier tonight, Mayor Fadness repeated the phrase, "You get what you tolerate." Well, actually, we get what you guys tolerate. And I don't think you all should tolerate this kind of activity for the children of Fishers. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Looks like we have another comment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ray Madelone, and I'm a resident of Fishers. And I was a member of the HEPL Board of Trustees. As a member of that board, I fought along with other trustees to move age-inappropriate books out of designated teen and children's areas in the library. We had some success in getting an entire class of graphic novels moved out of the teen section and identified a number of books which had no place in the children's section of the library. Today we have a slightly different, though more insidious issue of children at highly sexual and adult activities, drag shows. A recent drag show performance in Fishers advertised for and allowed children to attend and interact with the drag show performers. This latter activity is far worse than misassigned books. Here you are injecting young children into confusing sexual situations and using familiar Disney music to entice young children to dance as well as hand money to the drag show performers, or as I would call them, the groomers. What is also disturbing is that two sitting HSE school board members, Sarah Parks Reese and Sarah Donovich, and a candidate, Latricia Schooley, for the HSE school board, attended and supported these drag show performances with children in the audience. Let me be clear. I have no issue with adults having and going to drag shows, but I do draw the line at children attending these drag show performances. The Fisher City Council needs to be the adults in the room and find a way to protect children under the age of 18 in the community. If this were a gentleman's club, having a Bring Your Children event at the club, there would be no problem in seeing the wrong of exposing children to adults in sexually explicit situations. Disney songs and school board member participation cannot hide the fact that this is wrong, and the Fisher City Council needs to act. Please act now and protect the children of Fishers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chad Carmichael, Fishers resident. I just want to echo some of the things that Ray and Rachel were saying. This event was obviously just unacceptable for children. Having grown men dress up and put on what's in effect a striptease show for little kids while they hand them dollar bills like they're strippers. This is just not why any of us came to Fishers to raise our families. There should obviously, just like Ray said, be no law against adults doing this kind of thing in private. But when it's out in the open and in front of children, our leaders need to show some backbone and provide some legal guardrails, put an ordinance in place. I realize that there's an argument to the effect that this was done on private property and that the government should not regulate what happens on private property. What I would say in response is that this incident was in a highly visible area, highly visible from a well-trafficked public area. It's actually right off the Nickel Plate Trail. And this is where families and children live and play. Moreover, I want to add, you guys are currently regulating how long the grass is at the lawn where this event was held. So if you say that you can't do anything here, you're in effect taking the position that you don't care if children are sexualized on a lawn in broad daylight and in plain view of the public, as long as the lawn is mowed. That's manifestly absurd. So I'm asking you guys to please act in accordance with common sense and the best interests of our residents and pass some kind of an ordinance to deal with this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
My name is Amber Carmichael, and I've lived in Fishers for 14 years, and I also want to speak to the drag event that happened on Saturday, walking distance from here in full view of the public, with drag queens accepting cash from little children as if they were at a strip show. This event is part of an ongoing campaign from a fringe group of activists who are intent on the sexualization of children. In June, the City of Fishers promoted Pride Month on Fishers' social media platforms. The mayor of our city subsequently stated publicly that he did not have a problem with Fishers using its resources to promote Pride Month. The sexualization of children we saw on Saturday is the fruit of the city's welcome of this destructive agenda. As a citizen of the City of Fishers, I do not appreciate my representatives furthering behaviors that are harmful to children. The reason our family moved here 14 years ago was to provide our kids with a safe place to live and a top-notch education. Fishers has been a wonderful home, and we have loved raising our family here. However, in recent years, destructive forces have been creeping in. As the leadership of our city, please do everything that is in your power to make Fishers a family-friendly city and a safe place for children. Please do not take part in endorsing agendas that would corrupt our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Fadness and City Council. Yes, I'm here. As you know, I'm Diane Eaton, and I've been in Fishers for 39 years. And, I've been part of the fiber to continue with a thriving community and family-friendly. I urge you all to review the material that we've been talking about that happened, see the video and the photographs of the Pride Festival on Saturday, and I think you'll see that some of the activities were very, very adult-oriented, that were very sexual, and that there were children all around, and as you've already heard, that the children were providing tips. I think once you see these photos and the videos, you'll get the understanding that this particular activity with men dressed up as over-sexualized women and then very provocatively dancing and getting paid for tips is really not very family-friendly. And that if it was a gentleman's club or if it was women dressed up and provocatively dancing and asking for tips, I think you would all see that there really is an issue with that. So I urge you to look at some of your city ordinances that deal with indecently, and then I also encourage you to create an ordinance that defines adult-oriented or sexual-oriented entertainment that requires businesses, churches, nonprofits, anybody who hosts these kind of functions that would be zoned and licensed. And this would prohibit children from entering the buildings due to the statute as an adult-oriented business or activity. Part of this ordinance should also address regulations on hosting outdoor sexual-oriented or adult entertainment. Regulating zoning, as we've all heard tonight, is under your jurisdictions and your responsibilities. And as Mayor Fadden has said, you can put guardrails on our zoning and how it is used to create a community and safe environment. So I urge you all as city councilors to explore what ordinances that you can create that help protect children and define and regulate adult entertainment here in Fishers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Okay. Well, we appreciate your comments. I know we all got those emails this weekend, and I know personally I've asked our police department to look into that, and we'll be, looking into what we can be done. So thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.